another story. Mysteries, man-made lies. They tell of how you fell from the sky. You're once proud.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Free American Hour. I'm your host, Clay Douglas. My guest today is an old friend, Ron Jackson, from the early days of the Patriot Movement. Hello, Ron. How are you?
Good morning, Clay. I'm well, thank you. And you?
Well, they've been very unsuccessful at trying to kill me, Ron. It isn't because they haven't tried, but they haven't succeeded as of yet.
Well, you've got some fans at the Justice Department that are gathered around watching you this morning.
Hi, guys.
And
how are you, man? You know, I've always invited you guys to my lecture because in my heart, in my head, I believe that we took the same oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I still honor mine. I realize there wasn't an expiration date, although you drove me out of the Army early, or got me out of the Army early after trying to kill me in there. I still don't recall there being an expiration date on that oath. Ron, give me some of your history. Now, I was just starting the Free American Magazine, just starting to do shortwave radio when I run into you. We were doing a preparedness expos across the country. There was a Patriot Movement going on in America. You, Linda Thompson, Contact Magazine, I started the Free American. We were all pretty much talking, preaching the same message. Restore the Republic. Weren't we? Isn't that what? Tell me how you got interested in this. Tell me. Waco was what triggered me.
I used to be a government employee, and I got a little tired of what was going on, and there was a movement around the country to start up militias, and I said that's the wrong way, because if you show power and force, somebody's going to come down on your head. So I said, let's go the other way. Let's put out information, answer questions, and that's how it all began.
I guess I did both, Ron. I helped start the militia in New Mexico. I promoted the militia world nationwide, and I also started the Free American Magazine, and trying to put your information and your viewpoints out, and tell both sides of it. I wanted to tell the side of the people, the 17 little children that were killed, murdered in Waco, and then once people are fully informed instead of just programmed as the mainstream media does, then they can make intelligent decisions. And so I agree with your point too. Go ahead.
Well, there is a group of Texans listening to you from Austin right now. Another group in South Dakota listening to you now. They just called me and said that they were waiting for me to come on and wanted me to comment on a story that I've been getting emails on this morning about MJ12. And I said, well, it's Clay's show, and whatever he wants to do, I'll follow along with him.
All right, now, my friend Bill Cooper, and I've just written the latest article I've got about me and Bill Cooper, our relationship, while we were both doing Worldwide Shortwave, is up on my website right now. And Bill talked a lot about MJ12. I believe the underground bases that are being built all over this country, actually all over the world, is directly related to MJ12. What do you know about it? Go ahead and let's talk about
that. The underground bases have nothing to do with MJ12.
Okay.
MJ12 has been blown out of proportion. Harry Truman had the most narcissistic chief of staff, who was a Navy captain that originated MJ-12, and the stories that came out about MJ-12 and continue to come out, including Mr. Cooper's article, which I have about 200 emails on this morning, are mostly fictitious. And there isn't any truth to anyone who says that they are an expert on MJ-12. There's only one living person that's an expert on MJ-12, and that was the person who provided the muscle for the government on the board of MJ-12, which incidentally is a misnomer, because they were up to 18 board members, and finally got it back down. But very little truth that you see printed. There's very little truth about it and MJ-12.
Okay, now is MJ-12 supposed to be about the aliens? Is this supposed to be about the UFOs?
Well, it's supposed to be, and that's what it started out to be, but it grew out of proportion to what the facts were. And I was appointed to oversee it, and I took instructions from a few people in the government about how those people were to conduct themselves, and they weren't permitted to have any news releases or anything, and in fact the government put very little out about it. And like I said, including Mr. Cooper's story, a lot of it is not factual.
All right, I had a father-in-law by the name of Loy Conrad, and Colonel Loy Conrad, U.S. Marine Corps, and Loy says he was the Marine captain that escorted the surviving aliens from Roswell to Truman's office. He said Truman locked them up, put them in the basement of the Pentagon, locked them up. He thought they were a danger to him. And is there truth to that story?
No.
Okay.
No alien from New Mexico went to the White House. No alien that survived the original crash didn't survive for very long. And like I said, most of this is works of fiction, and take it from the one who knows.
So what happened at Roswell? What is MJ-12? And then, but wait, before we get into that, I want you to make my audience aware of what happened. I invited you on, we just reconnected, haven't talked to each other for almost 10 years. And I don't know what you've been doing in that time. But
surviving.
You got a visit. You looked up and somebody was looking in your window. Your Doberman was going nuts. Tell me what happened, please.
Well, I had just finished talking to Grandma Herman and up in Iowa, and my Doberman was going ape, and I got up from my desk and looked around, and a guy was standing at my window. And then I looked out in the street, and there was 2 black Suburbans. Well, anybody that knows anything about the government knows who drives black Suburbans. Anyway, I went to the door, and I said, "You're taking a great risk," because I said, "The next time you look in my window, I'm going to let my King Doberman loose." And I said, "What is your business here?" And he said, well, Mr. Jackson, we understand you're going to be on Clay Douglas's radio show. And I said, well, what I understand too, it's Wednesday of this week, and we know all about it. And I said, well, what's your interest in me and Mr. Douglas? And, oh, it's just regular government business. We're just following up on a few things. Very small talk, very elementary, as you would envision a lot of, or the majority of government workers as being. And that was the extent of it. I found out who was in charge. And so I called my friend back in the Justice Department, and he says, well, I haven't heard anything about it, but I'll look into it. And he called me back a little while later, and he said, well, the heat's off of you. You won't be bothered. And let me know if there's any more Suburbans pull up. And I said, well, they do or are known to drive other kinds of vehicles. And he says, if any of that agency contacts you, I want to know about it immediately. In fact, call me when they're there, when you see them. And that was the end of that. Other than them saying that they felt that you were a subversive, there wasn't much of a conversation that went on.
Now, I've been a talk show host for almost 20 years. I've been publishing in public libraries and for sale, my magazine for sale in bookstores around the country. Books A Million, they finally got me out, but now what exactly am I doing that's subversive here? What are we talking about? I mean, I took an oath to defend the Constitution just like those guys that came up to your door. You did too.
Well, I'm not aware that you're doing anything subversive when you're putting out information and making people knowledgeable about the truth. I don't consider that subversive.
Well, I don't consider it. You know, I mean, I've been listed as anti-government, right-wing extremist, you know, all that. I say I'm not anti-government, I'm pro-government. I just want the Constitution, the Republic, the Constitution guaranteed me. And now, what? Somebody asked me, well, what does that? What does that mean? What does being a subversive mean? I said, well, it probably means the same thing in the country today as being called a dissident in Russia. If you're opposing a communist regime, then you're going to be demonized, you're going to be harassed, you're going to be threatened, and I've had all of the above done to me. You know, Ron, I mean, it's really kind of mystery to me. I'm just an old biker from Texas. What are they scared about me? Why did they not want you to come on my show? What are they afraid of you revealing on my show and to, you know, the 10 people listening to it?
Well, I'm not sure what their motivation is or their reasoning is. They can't claim that I've ever done anything that was subversive, and I don't know that you have either. And I think it's just whenever anyone has a voice about anything that's contrary to any of their policies, well, then I believe they feel it's subversive. But there's not much that the government does now that I approve of. And I guess that makes me a subversive too.
Are they now? What kind of harassment did you have in the Patriot Movement, in the beginnings of the Patriot Movement, when the militias were starting, before they blew up Oklahoma City? And you know that they blew up Oklahoma City to try to demonize the militia and to try to take the focus of April 19th away from the Branch Davidian murder to and put it on, you know, the children in the federal building that they blew up from the inside out. No, General Benjamin Parton told me that there's no way that truck bomb could have done the damage to that building. They blew the debris was blown out of the building.
Yes. Well, I believe that it was done from the inside also, and I don't have to listen to anyone else to make me believe anything else. There may have been explosives in the truck, and there may have been an explosion from the outside, but the majority of the damage came from the inside.
There was I had a video of the woman that walked into the parking garage there and saw them planting the C4 along the towers there, or along the columns, rather.
Yes. Well, I've seen that, and I'm not sure about it, but I'm sure that C4 was used on the inside to make that kind of an explosion. You know, a lot of people died then, and that's on the government as far as I'm concerned. And things like that are stupid. And there went a black Suburban in front of my house, driving slowly. So I hope they're getting an earful.
Well, I hope so. What are they? What would they? You know, now they haven't approached any of my other guests beforehand. I've had a lot of my guests that ended up in jail after being on my show. Roger Christie in Hawaii, Edgar Steele in Idaho. And I've had his wife on, saying that he wasn't trying to kill her. They weren't having any problems at all, and the FBI informant lied about it. Now, you know, so people are going down, but nobody's ever, the government has never approached anybody before you to...
well, you know, Clay, I'll tell you something. The government is afraid of me because of my knowledge of a number of things that have occurred in the past in the government.
For instance, Ron, this is what they didn't want you to say. I want you to say it. I want to know what's going on. I've blown the whistle and been threatened by the CIA for revealing Bush's drug dealing operation called Operation Watchtower down in Colombia and Panama with his partners Manuel Noriega and Bill Clinton. So, you know, I've been threatened by the CIA supposedly before that. What are they afraid? What knowledge do you have that they don't want me to know about?
Well, I don't. Probably a great deal. I can't get into their minds because they're too small. But when I worked for the Committee of 16, I could fill up several prisons in the United States because most of the orders that I was following came directly from the government, and it's all their dirt. I did their dirty work for them, whether it was justified or not. And I'm thinking after yesterday that they're still concerned about that, and rightfully so. There's a lot of high-ranking, either active or inactive government employees that were involved in that. Well, I want them to know that I've got everything documented, and they'll never see it unless I decide to put it out. And I've been thinking seriously about it, but that decision will be made at the appropriate time.
Well, in your opinion, based on your history, you know, I'm still not getting the answers that I want, Ron. What are we doing here? The heat? Well, I've been doing this for almost 20 years. The same type of propaganda is going on. Oh, Clay's a racist. Oh, he's anti-Semite. They've been trying to throw that, you know, before I knew anything about the Jewish people or the Jewish religion. You know, what is going on here? What is this whole New World Order? I call it one world government of the bankers, by the banksters, and for the banksters. And they're funding all of the police forces against us. They're turning this into a police state. Am I accurate in my assessment here? Or what is your assessment on what is going on now? What is happening now? What do we have to look forward to?
It's not entirely a police state. I think that I would probably arm myself and go out and go hunting if I thought it was. However, there are people with enormous egos that want to be top dog, and not all of them could be top dog. And that's what's really going on. I don't believe for a minute that it is a concentrated government effort. I think it's just a few individuals that when they talk, people listen, and that's really what's going on. I think it's an ego power trip by a few people and nothing more. I used to think it was the government, but now that I know many government employees, and not all of them are stupid, but now that I know many government employees, I know it's not a government type of thing. It's a few individuals, and almost all of your listeners have heard all of their names many times in their life.
What is their plan? What is going on here? I see our freedoms are being lessened. The video I just put up by Russell Means says we're all Indians now. They've got us on a reservation. We're on a global plantation. We're basically slaves, and the art of slavery has been refined to the point that the slaves don't know they're slaves. I'm not a slave. I can get in my pickup and go get a beer. Watch. It's called economic slavery. That's my assessment on it, Ron. What is yours? What do we have to look forward to? What should we be preparing for?
Well, I again, you're back to a few select individuals who everyone knows who's on a power trip, and that's the extent of it. Nothing more. I used to think a one world government was somewhat fictitious, but I think that eventually we're going to see a one world government ran by one person, and that's what they're all thriving and going after.
No, wait a minute. Let me stop you there. The one world government with Lucifer or the Antichrist at the top of it was planned over 200 years ago in detail in writing, called the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. But if you read it or mention it, suddenly you are condemned for being anti-Semitic. Oh, Clay's anti-Semitic because he's telling you that Israel's got a Rothschild colony, it's got 400 nuclear weapons, and it's basically a safe house for a criminal elite. And you keep mentioning the elite, but you know, a lot of these people, Bernanke, Greenspan, they happen to be Jewish, and we got Benjamin Netanyahu sitting at the power controls in Israel, trying to drive us to war with Iran and all these other Muslim nations. They're trying to frame the Muslims in the destruction of 9/11 when it was the Jewish owners of the building that rigged them for explosive. Comments, please.
Well,
am I missing the point here?
And I've heard that theory, but I don't go along with it entirely.
Explain to me why. I didn't see any. There were no films. Nobody with box cutters, made the tallest building in New York City fall straight down. Come on, and no plane hit building number 7. So, somebody was behind that. But I don't believe it was Osama bin Laden, since he'd been dead for most of that time.
Well, Osama bin Laden happens to be the person in the forefront, and happens to be the person that the government is touting as our enemy, and he may very well be. However, in my opinion, the government is more of a threat to the American people than Osama bin Laden, and it's going to take a pretty powerful argument to change my mind on that.
If the government we have, I'm pro-government, if the government we have is the one, the Republic, that Benjamin Franklin told us about, if we could keep it. But if a communist form of government has been installed in this country under the guidelines by demonizing people like Joe McCarthy, and trying to say that suddenly, Joe McCarthy is a bad word, yeah, because some of Roosevelt's best friends were communists. What about coming? What about the Cold War we fought for 50 years, Ron? Who won? Who won from your viewpoint as a ex-insider? Or maybe you're still an insider.
It's a no-win situation from anyone's perspective, or should be. It didn't accomplish anything other than put forth big projects that cost billions of dollars, and didn't accomplish anything.
Oh, how much does it cost? How much does it cost the government to buy an atomic bomb? If we got 1,000 atomic bombs sitting up there in under Kirtland Air Force Base in New Mexico, exactly who made the profit on that? What are they good for? Why are we doing that? Why was the Cold War? And why did suddenly, the Jewish spies arm the Soviet Union?
Clay, I wish I could answer that for you, but to me it makes no sense. And the atomic bombs are one of the biggest jokes that our country has ever perpetrated on us. And all I want to do is survive, and I've been in that survivalist mode for years, and it's getting to the point where I don't believe much of what's said by the government. And this morning, every morning, and for years, I've read the Wall Street Journal. It's unbelievable their content anymore. And I'm just about ready to quit them, because they're not doing anything. They're just trying to entertain people. And when I read the news, I want the real, honest news. And our mainstream media doesn't put it out.
Well, you may have to if you want honest news, you may have to get it from Al Jazeera.